حيوة بن شريح الحمصي قال حدثنا ابن عياش أن يحيى بن أبي عمرو السيباني عن عبد الله بن ديلمي عن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله قال قدم وفد الجن على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالوا يا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم إنها أمتك أن يستنجوا بعظم أو روثة أو حممة فإن الله عز وجل جعل لنا فيها رزقا قال فنهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن ذلك. Arrived Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, delegation of Jinnat arrived to Nabi Akram, by Nabi Akram, and they said, "O Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, stop your ummah or prevent your ummah from making istinja with bones or dung or coal, because Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has made for us in it rizq." So Nabi Akram prohibited from that. All right. So this is Abdullah Dailami, right? It's actually his name is Fayruz, right? So it's Abdullah bin Fayruz Dailami. He was a tabi, and it said there's one called to say he was a sahabi also. All right. Then we have here that the Jinnat now came here, right, to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And they said that Indus is our risk, right? So Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam prohibited from using this to make istinja with this. So sure, commentators mentioned that these jinnat were Nasibin. Nasibin was a town in Iraq near Mosul, right? At the source of the Euphrates River. Here there are many jinnat, yeah, right? And they are also called the leaders of the jinn, Sadatul Jinn. And the ayat wa sarafna ilayka nafaran min al-jinn is also referring to the jinnat, the jinn Nasibin, right? Some say they were 7, and some say they were 9. And this group came there to Makkatul Mukarramah before Hijrat, right? Right. Then at the end there, they asked Nabi Kareem for Sa'aluhu Zada. They asked him for provisions. For lakum kullu azmin. For you is every bone. So Nabi Akram said that whichever bone you come across, you will find it more full with meat than it was, right? And then on that day, they said that, "Oh Nabi Akram, command your ummah, right, not to make istinja with these bones." So Nabi Akram prohibited us from making istinja with the bones, because now they would come across it and they would find it with full of meat, and they could eat that now. The Jinnat, the delegations of Jinnat, there are many times when they came. In fact, they say they came 6 times, 3 before Hijrat and 3 after Hijrat, right? And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will make for us a rizq in this, the Jinnat say, right? So has made for us our rizq in this. So rizq here, not only in the meaning of food, but rather benefit. And that's how they benefit from coal also, because they use the coal for other purpose, not for eating. You understand it? And when it comes to dung also, then they use it for other purpose also. And some say the bones are for the jinnat and the dung is for the animals of the jinnat. Right. Then there's a hadith which comes also in Muslim Sharif. Lakum kullu azmin dhukira ismullahi alayh. And in Tirmidhi is lakum kullu azmin lam yudhkar ismullahi alayh. Right. So this hadith here that between Tirmidhi and Muslim, there's the word is completely opposite, right? For you is every bone on which the name of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is taken, and for you is every bone upon which the name of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has not been taken. So some say it refers now that one is for the Muslim jinnat, the other is for the non-Muslim jinnat. Others say that what it means here is that in the zabah, in other words, the first hadith refers to in the zabah. So your food will be that bones on which the name of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala was taken at the time of zabah, and the name of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is not taken at the time of eating. That will be the second hadith, right? Right. Okay, Babul Istinja'i. Carry on. Babul Istinja'i. mentioning that so like, now all the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah right now they agreed permissible to make istijab with stone. Only the Shia it's can't make yeah. So people are saying they call جار يستطيب بهن فإنها تجزي عنه. Therefore, Masjid Aisha Rajulan said, the Nabi Akram says, when one of you go to the toilet, you should go with 3 stones and you should make his sinja with them, it will suffice him. Right. Then there's a hadith also which comes in Bukhari Sharif, right? Let's see which here also. All right. There's a hadith which comes in Bukhari Sharif where Nabi Karim Sallallahu told Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, bring me 3 stones. And when he went, he only found 2. He didn't find the 3rd one. And instead of the 3rd one, he bought a piece of dung. So Nabi Akram took the 2 stones and he threw the dung, right? And he said, this is Hada Riksun, this is Najis, right? Right. So, nevertheless, from this hadith here, both Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Shafi Rahmullah takes dalil. Imam Shafi Rahmullah says, see, he was told to bring 3 stones, right? And Imam Abu Hanifa Rahmullah says, the dung was thrown and Nabi Akram made sufficed with 2 stones. So which means 3 is not necessary, right? Imam Shafi Rahmullah says that there's no way in the hadith where it's mentioned that he only sufficed on 2 stones. Rather, it is possible that when he sent him to bring another stone. Or it is possible, they say, that Nabi Akram found the 3rd stone nearby him. So we say that, look, if the 3rd stone was nearby, then what would be the reason for sending for 3 stones, right? Nevertheless, Hafiz ibn Hajar Rahmatullahi says, on behalf of the Imam Shafi Rahmatullahi, he says, وَغَفَلَ التَّحَاوِيُّ. Now, Imam Tahawi was the one defending the Hanafi mazhab. وَغَفَلَ التَّحَاوِيُّ رَحْمَةً أَمَّا أَخْرَجَهُ أَحْمَدْ فِي مُسْنَدِهِ. Right. And Imam Tahawi is unmindful, he says, of what Imam Ahmad brought in his Musnad, where he says, Itini bi hajarin. After he said, go bring me another stone now. Right. It didn't suffice with just 2 stones. Imam Tahawi Rahmullah gives an answer to this and he says, this portion of Itini bi hajarin, they say that is weak. Right. And that, you understand? And that portion is weak, right? And the Rawi that's there, Abu Ishaq Al-Kama, he is narrating from Abu Ishaq Al-Kama, right? Or rather, the Abu Ishaq is narrating from Al-Kama, right? And Abu Ishaq didn't hear from Al-Kama. He didn't meet Al-Kama. You got that? So there's inqita in that particular riwayat. Then we say Imam Tirmidhi and Imam Nasai, they also brought babs, Babul Istinja'i bil Hajarain. They brought this bab to show that it is permissible to suffice on 2 stones also. Nevertheless, it was just a right. وبه قال حدثنا عبد الله بن محمد النفيل حدثنا ابو معاويه عن هشام بن عروه عن عمرو بن خزيمه عماره بن خزيمه بن ثابت رضي الله عنه قال سئل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الاستطابه فقال ب3 احجار ليس فيها رجيع. قال ابو داود كذا رواه ابو اسامه وابن نمير عن هشام يعني ابن عروه. Right. Ibn Khuzaybah bin Sabi said Nabi Akram was asked about istinja. So he said with 3 stones and there shouldn't be dung in it. Imam Abu Dawud said likewise Abu Usama and Ibn Umayr narrates from Hisham ibn Urwa. Right. So they say in the Sanad there's ikhtilaf there. Some say that between Hisham ibn Umar and Amr ibn Khuzaimah, there is a medium there, right? And his name is Abdurrahman ibn Sa'ad. You understand? However, most of them are narrating it without this medium, without this medium of Abdurrahman ibn Sa'ad, right? The Khuzaimah bin Sabit, he was a very famous Sahabi, and he got the title of Zu Shahadatain, right? And there's an incident about him, and Imam and Nabi Akram said, "Man shahida lahu Khuzaimatu, fahuwa hasbu." Whoever Khuzaimah testifies for him, then he is sufficient. He testified in favor of Nabi Akram. There's some ikhtilaf with the non-Muslim. You understand? So he testified, and therefore Nabi Akram declared his shahadat equal to 2 shahadats. Right. Babun fil istibra'i, the chapter in regarding making istinja with water. Right. So the previous bab spoke about istibra anil bawl, right? In other words, general abstaining from urine, splashes, urine, whichever way, right? Whether it's your own urine, whether it's somebody else's urine. And here istibra is, what is meant by istibra is istinja bil ma, making istinja with water, right? وبه قال حدثنا قتيبة بن سعيد وخلف بن هشام البكري والمعنى قال حدثنا عبد الله بن يحيى التوأم وحدثنا عمرو بن عون قال اخبرنا ابو يعقوب التوأم عن عبد الله بن ابي مليكة عن امي عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت بال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال عمر خلفه بكوز من ماء فقال ما هذا يا عمر فقال ما تتودأ به قال ما أمرت كلما بلت أن أتودأ ولو فعلت لكانت سنة. Right, narrated from Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha said that Nabi can pass urine, and Umar radiallahu anhu stood behind him with a utensil of water. So he said, "What is this utensil of water?" Umar radiallahu anhu said, "Water that you can make wuzu with it." So he said, "I haven't been commanded that every time I pass urine that I should make wuzu, and if I did so, then it would become a sunnat." Right. So in other words, he's showing it's easy for the people. You don't have to make wuzu. Better to make wuzu now after you made complete istibra. Right. So now, how is this connected to istinja bil ma? So they say here that the word wuzu here has 2 meanings. One is wuzu shari. In other words, I don't have to make wuzu shari after I pass urine every time. And the other opinion is here, wuzu here means istinja with water. In other words, I don't have to make istinja with water. You understand it? So that's how it's connected to the babul istinja bil ma. Right. Then we find a sanad here, right? That if we look here in this sanad, there's a hadi, right? So in the first sanad, we find Qutayba, they narrating from the Ustad Abdullah bin Yahya, right? And Amr ibn Aoun, he narrates from Abu Yaqub. Right, so if you go into that sanad there, you'll see here. Where is it now? Yeah. حدثنا قتيبة بن سعيد وخلف بن شام, right? So Qutayba and Khalf ibn Sham, right? They say Abdullah bin Yahya. And in the other ustad of Imam Abu Dawud is Amr bin Aoun, right? They say Abu Yaqub at-Tu'amu. So both Abdullah bin Yahya at-Tu'amu and Abu Yaqub at-Tu'amu is the same person. But because they mention it different, therefore he brought the ha. You understand it? Because the one ustad mentioned him as Abu Yaqub, therefore he brought that to show that, right? Then what else they mention here is it? And in the first sanad, he's got Haddasana, right? Qala Haddasana Abdullah ibn Yahya at-Tu'amu. And here he's got Akhbarana Abu Yaqub at-Tu'amu. You got that now? So just to show these two, Imam Abu Dawud Rahmatullahi brought Hade, and this is out of precaution. Then we got Babun fil istinjai bil ma'i. Right. The Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, obviously, they say it's permissible to use water for istinja. There are some scholars who say you can't use water for istinja, and they say water is just like food, just like water is something you drink, right? So just like you won't use bread to make istinja, likewise you shouldn't use water to make istinja. Jamhur, or the general ulama, they say what is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً طَهُورًا. We send down water from the skies as a cleanser, right? Nevertheless, there were some Sahaba who didn't make istinja with water. They say Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Zubair, and they would say, La yazalun natanu biyadi. There will be a stench on my continuous stench on my hand if I must use water. You understand it? So Imam Buddha Rahman brought us to show that it is permissible to make istinja with water. In fact, there's a third type method of istinja. So one was with stones, one is with water, and the third type is istinja bil hajari wal ma'i. Make istinja with the stones and the water, right? So when it comes to this, there's no sahih riwayat. In fact, it's mentioned that those riwayats which are sahih, there is nothing clear about istinja bil hajar wal ma. And those riwayats which are sarih, in other words, they use is hajar and ma, stones and water, they are not sahih. They are weak hadiths. You understand it? So when it comes to this, but nevertheless, you find as Umar radiallahu anhu is mentioned about him in Tibrani, that جمع بين الحجر والماء بعد البول, is together between stones and water after passing urine. Right. وبيقول حدثنا وهب بن بقية عن خالد يعني الواسطية عن خالد عن خالد يعني الحذاء عن عطاء بن أبي ميمونة عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم دخل حائطا ومعه غلام معه ميضاءة وهو أصغرنا فوضع عند السدرة فقضى حاجته فخرج علينا وقد استنجى بالماء. Therefore, Anas ibn Malik said, Nabi Akram entered the garden, and with him there was a youngster with him, and with this youngster was a utensil of water, and he was the smallest of us. So he placed it by the lotus tree. Then he fulfilled, Nabi Akram fulfilled his need. Then he came out to us, and he had made istinja with water. Right. So this proves now istinja with water. So we find here now that there's a ghulam here. Who's this ghulam? What's the meaning of ghulam? They say ghulam is that boy who, from the time he's weaned off the food until the age of 7. And another call says ghulam means from the time the boy is born until he becomes baligh. Right. So who was this ghulam? If you look at the Imam Bukhari's hadith, it indicates towards the fact that this ghulam was Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. However, you look at this hadith here, asgharuna, right? He was the smallest of us. And then Abdullah ibn Mas'ud won't fit there because Anas is narrating it, and he's saying that he was the smallest of us, so it wouldn't be Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was bigger than him, right? Then it is said it could be as a Jabir ibn Abdullah, and it's also said it could be as a Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Nevertheless, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, as Jabir ibn Abdullah, and as even as Anas was also the khadim, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and as Abu Hurairah, they were all khadims, right? Right. وبيقول حدثنا محمد بن العلاء قال اخبرنا معاويه بن هشام عن يونس بن الحارث عن ابراهيم بن ابي ميمونه عن ابي صالح عن ابي هريره رضي الله عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال نزلت هذه الايه في اهل قباء في رجال يحبون ان يتطهروا قال كانوا يستنجون بالماء فنزلت فيهم هذه الايه. Now, Abu Hurairah said from Nabi Akram that this ayat was revealed in regards to the people of Quba. What was ayat? Amongst them, there are men who love to cleanse himself properly, and they used to make istinja with water. This ayat was revealed in regards to them. Right. So Quba is an area of in Medina, right? In fact, initially it was on the outskirts of Medina, but nowadays it's included in Medina, right? The first masjid was built in Quba, and thereafter Masjid Nabawi Sallallahu was built. The first masjid of Medina, right, was built in Quba. Right. There's great rewards here for reading. Nabi Akram would go every Saturday to read 2 rakats in Masjid Quba. And it comes in a riwayat, whoever reads 2 rakats in Masjid Quba, he gets a reward of of an umrah, right? So these people here, when this ayat was revealed, then Nabi Karim went to Quba and he asked them, what is it which has where Allah Ta'ala has praised you people? So they said that we saw the Ahle Kitab. They would make istinja after using the stones, after making istinja with the stones, they would also wash, right? So we follow them. So Nabi Akram said, huwa dhaka fa'alaykum, it is this point here that Allah is referring to. So hold fast onto it, right? Babu rajul alladhi yadluku yadahu bil ardi is a stanja. The chapter regarding a man who rubs his hand on the earth when he makes istinja. So to rub your hand on the earth to remove the smell and to remove the effects of the najasat is totally permissible. It was famous amongst the populace or the general public is that when you rub your hands on the earth, it would create poverty. So to repel this now, Imam Abu Dawud brings this باب here, right? وبيقول حدثنا ابراهيم بن خالد قال حدثنا اسود بن عامر قال حدثنا شريك وهذا لفظه وحدثنا محمد بن عبد الله يعني المخرمي قال حدثنا وكيع عن شريك المعنى عن ابراهيم بن جرير عن المغيرة عن ابي زرعة عن ابي هريرة رجل قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اذا اتى الخلاء اتيت بماء في تور أو ركوة فاستنجى. قال أبو داود في حديث وكيع ثم مسح يده والأرض ثم أتيت بماء آخر فتودع. قال أبو داود وحديث الأسود بن عامر حديث الأسود بن عامر أتم. Right. Narrated from Abu Hurairah said that Nabi Akram when he would come to the toilet, then I would bring him water in a utensil made of copper there, copper or okay, I'll give it to you just now. Or a utensil made of leather, right? Then you would make it sinja. Abu Dawud said regards to the hadith, in the hadith of Waqi now. So if you look at there now, you've got there, Hadithana Ibrahim ibn Khalid, they both come to Sharik, right? Hadithana Waqi, the second sanad, right? In the hadith of Waqi, then he wipes his hand on the earth, then he wiped his hand on, then I brought him another utensil, then he made wuzu. Imam Buddha says the hadith of Aswad ibn Amir is more stronger. Right? So in other words, he's saying the first sanad, which doesn't have that extra. You understand it? Of summa masahu al-ard, summa masayada al-ard. That extra there is not in the first sanad, but he said that first sanad is stronger. Right. Nevertheless, that the second sanad proves that of rubbing the hand on the earth. Right. Let's see what I got here. So Taur is that utensil made of copper or stone, right? And Rakwa is that utensil made of leather, right? The bag made of leather. From this hadith, it shouldn't be understood that to make wuzu now with the leftover istinja water, right, is makruh. You understand it? Rather, another utensil of water was brought, because it's possible the first utensil wasn't sufficient. Otherwise, it's established from Nabi Karim Sallallahu that he made from one utensil istinja, wuzu, and ghusl. You understand it? Right. Now, why do you rub your hands? Why, in other words, is it necessary to remove the smell? So there's two sets of ulama. One set of ulama say that it is necessary to remove the smell, and the reason being is that when the smell is there, that means particles of najasat is there. The other ulama say, no, you just got to remove the ain and najasat. Whatever the najasat is, you move that from the body, then you can read salah, right? The smell is there because of the najasat that was on the body and it lingers on, right? So here there's two sanads now. One is starting with Ibrahim, and the other one is Muhammad bin Abdullah. Those are the ustads of the Musannif, right? Then the first, the Sheikh, the grand ustad is Aswad, and the second sanad is Waqi. Then they both join up by Sharik. They join up. So he's the Multaqa Sanadain. That's where they join up, right? Right. Has she got anything else? Nothing else. Okay, leave it till there. Is it Babu? Sure. Okay.